YouTube, and then we'll get started with, let's see if it'll tell me how many people are in the lobby, if anybody. Doesn't.
Awesome,
okay,
man.
we're live on YouTube.
Love it.
All right, so we got our digital tech rundown. We're on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. And then in 2 minutes, we will go live and see if we have anybody in the waiting room. I don't think there is a waiting room yet.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's practice mode only. It's going to tell me to start the broadcast, I think.
Are you sharing to Facebook also?
No, I'm not, because this is going to be Cobb Association of Realtors.
Mm-hmm.
I will share the YouTube live stream on Facebook, though. I
was just thinking I can share it if you're going to post it and tag me or post it on my wall. Or
let me see if it'll let me. Copy streaming link. No, it's only letting me stream to one.
Yeah, right. I'm saying even after the
we're get you tagged in all this.
Yeah, we'll share the recording after the live is over or whatever.
Okay, advanced sharing options. All panelists can share. You can actually go in and share. It might give you the ability to share it now.
From Zoom or where?
It might. See, I was able to just give it attendees ability to share, so I don't know if it's going to let you share it as well.
Stream, copy streaming link. Boom. Look at that, learning something new.
All right.
And
I just opened us up. So we got attendees starting to hop in now. Hey, everybody. Give it another minute or so. Get that off. Super excited to get going with this, man. We had such a great turnout at GAR when we talked about tech that Cobb has just been begging us to talk about it again to everybody else. So, hey, everybody. Good morning. We'll get started in just a second. We're up to about 11 participants hopping in, getting more coming in. So we'll give this a minute and we'll get started. See if I can get this shared.
Boom. It's on my Facebook wall.
Awesome. You get this on mine. There we go. I'm just going to approve yours. There we go. And all right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Digital Tech Rundown webinar. I am Chris Lazarus, Education Chair for the Cobb Association of Realtors. And we're very excited for this talk today because there is so much happening in the real estate industry and in the space in general that it's hard to stay on top of it. So I'm very excited to have Matt Fagioli here, who is one of the founders and broker over at BKG Atlanta. Matt, I'll let you talk a little bit about your background here. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what got you into talking about tech.
Sure. Well, so I was in a tech business selling really sophisticated tech 30 years ago before I got in real estate. And then I like to tell a joke at my conferences that, I got into real estate so I could spend more time with my family. We all know that doesn't happen. But anyway, that's what I did. I was traveling a lot and I said, I want to build a local business. I'm going to get in real estate. And that was back in 2003. Got licensed. I was rookie of the year at KW that year and blah, 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 and posted some big numbers and then started doing training and tech events and stuff like that because I had a tech background and all that. Built my first event in 2009 in partnership with my buddy Brad Nix from your side of town. It was called RE Tech South, and it was a blast. And then built a bunch of events after that, and Explode Conference and all that. And so, and then we launched 1 year ago yesterday. We launched a brokerage called Brokerage Atlanta, or BKG, and we had 70 agents, mostly over here in Gwinnett. Although Kelly Phillips and her whole gang have recently joined us on your side of town. And so yeah, so that was like a really quick like bio or whatever, but
yeah, gave us the last 20 years or so there. I love it.
Yeah,
Well, Matt,
yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. For those of you, so I'm the education chair for the Cobb Association of Realtors. I'm also the host of the Rethink Real Estate podcast, and the broker over at Select Realty. So we deal, both Matt and I are coming at this from the standpoint of practicing and also leadership. So we're going to talk a lot about different tech tools today. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. So if you are logged in here, at the bottom of your Zoom meeting, there's a little Q&A box. Please go ahead, and if you have any questions throughout the meeting, go ahead and just drop in some questions, and we'll make sure that we get to them throughout the webinar today. And just if you have any questions that we don't get to, we will open this up to Q&A at the end. So we're going to try and go through this about 40 minutes of different types of tech and open it up to about 20 minutes of Q&A at the end. So Matt, Explode Conference, that the name is there. It kind of has exploded as the years have gone by, right? Tell us a little bit about what that conference does and what got you into the tech space there.
Sure. Well, so I'd had all that tech background before I got in real estate. When I got in real estate, I went at it from a very tech background, building websites and doing things like IDX before it was cool. I mean, so I had IDX websites in 2003 when people were like, "What the heck is that?" Mm-hmm. And so I was always all into the tech, and it's just kind of my bent. And so we built Explode in 2011, and with the idea of saying, hey, we want to take all of this tech and carry it around to realtors all over the country, and move them down the road. And 10 years ago, a lot of it was, people were like, what the heck's a Facebook?
Yeah.
Facebook launched in 2007, but even still in 2009, 10, 11, people were, it wasn't common. We certainly weren't talking about ubiquitous Facebook ads like we do now. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, so we carried the tech all around the country, and over the years, we refined that conversation and that message, but it still comes down to anybody selling anything, but particularly if you're selling real estate, if you want to have the biggest possible business and yet still have, the most efficient way possible, that's going to be a tech-driven model. And, people are on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of their tech savviness, right? If you're a 1 or a 2, you need lots of help. If you're a 9 or a 10, you still need collaboration and mastermind, and everybody. There's I learn something new at every one of I've hosted 150 conferences, and I always learn something every time. So it's like that's so incredible. Funny when you get feedback from people who's like, oh, I didn't learn anything at that conference. I'm like, well, you might be a douchebag, because
maybe a little bit.
I learned something everywhere.
So when it comes to an agent's business, for somebody who isn't tech, because you mentioned, having the IDX in 2003, there's agents out there that still don't have an IDX website. There's agents out there that still don't have a website or a Facebook page. Why is it so important? Like, how much of an impact does it really make on an agent's business to learn this stuff, apply it into their everyday?
Well, it's just massive leverage. So let's not talk about IDX, because that's, you could argue whether that's a good idea or not, and blah, blah, but just generally speaking, leveraging tech elegantly, which is a really important word in that sentence because
Yeah.
lots of people don't do that. But if you're leveraging tech in an elegant way, you're just going to be way more effective. So you're gonna reach more people with less effort. So that's kind of the message of Explode conferences. How do I level up my business while improving my lifestyle? And so that's always going to be a tech driven method. And so, we could talk about 1,000 tools, but just to give you one example, we use a tool called Call Action. And, right now we've just launched these new campaigns with them where we'll take 100 leads on a Monday for per agent and launch these campaigns out that's like text, voicemail, blah, 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 this, and re-engage these 100 leads. And that will create 50 inbound communications. Some of those communications are please die and don't call me, right?
Part of the game now.
But if you could, from a time efficiency and effectiveness standpoint, get 100 people and engage those 100 people and get 50 responses, and then be able to respond to those responses. And so, like, oh man, I just like jumped into my week, right, in a really powerful way. And I did all of that by hitting the button. So you have to learn the tech and actually implement it in your business, which is where everybody falls down. But then once you do that, I mean, the tools are incredibly effective, and it's getting ridiculous. Like every year that goes by, the stuff just gets, and this because I know you're using a lot of this stuff, but it's unbelievable what you can do now that you couldn't do even 3 or 5 years ago.
Absolutely. So for like a novice, before we start talking about the types of tech, how do you figure out what you need in your business? Like, how do you even know where to start? Because you and I, we live in this, but for somebody who is just stepping in, or a new agent, how do you know what you need, and how do you determine what's going to be a good fit in your business or not?
Sure. Well, I always talk about the order of things. And so we have brand new agents in our brokerage. We have brand new agents on our team. We also run a team within the brokerage. And we have new agents in both of those environments. And so when I'm coaching them, and I actually just hung up a coaching Zoom call about this, it always starts with for me, what I call top 100. Everybody has a different way to phrase it, but I call it top 100 and a sphere of influence. But it's who are the 100 people that are most likely to buy or sell or refer you a piece of business, and getting that data in a usable form. So the first tool you have to use is, Google Drive, and create a spreadsheet and get the data on your 100 people. And honestly, so if there's 50 people or 100 people listening to this right now, if they're being honest with themselves, 98 of them don't have this data. And I'm saying first name, last name, physical address, email address, cell phone number, birthday for the 100 people that are most likely to buy or sell or refer you business. And you have to have talked to all those people in the last 30 days to know if that information is actually accurate. 98 out of 100 people listening to this don't have that. So as far as I'm concerned, until you've done that, nothing else matters. Once you have that information, then you start layering simple tech on top of that. And, the first simple tech is, so I can, you can, we all can send a call, send a text, send a video text, send 1,000 other ways to, right, all of that from this. So you got to win all of that stuff first. And I think, so many people don't do that. And so they come to the conferences and they get tangled up in all these technologies, and they just don't have the core, the CRM is only as good as the data in the CRM. So you build all that first, then you start communicating with your phone. Then you go to Facebook and go, okay, well, what can I do on Facebook with these 100 people? Well, I can build a list in Facebook of who are my top 100. And when I get up in the morning and log into Facebook, I'm going to switch to that list so that all I'm seeing is I'm in working mode now, right? So I'm on Facebook and I'm looking at my top 100 people to see what's going on in their life. and making sure that I comment and send them private messages. And if it's their birthday, this is Nakia's thing, call everybody on their birthday using your Facebook, right? So I know I log into Facebook, I know I got 5 birthdays. He calls them all because nobody does that anymore, right? They're just going to post on your wall or whatever. And I love that. So I've kind of everything I ever know or tell anybody, I've stolen from somebody else. So I've stolen that from Nakia. And I'm going to find things that I steal from you, Chris. So,
I hope.
Yeah. But anyway,
he's in a different market though, will you?
So you go
awesome.
to Facebook and then you go from there.
Yeah. And I think that is a great way to start. And, one of the things that we talk about, especially with new agents, is we want them to have a different message, right? You don't want to be the same monotonous thing that every other realtor's doing out there. And you mentioned something in there is video text, birthdays. There's a guy, I'm sure you know, Sean Carpenter. He's out of Ohio, brilliant speaker, Caldwell Banker agent out of.
He drinks too much beer, that guy.
Oh, he loves it. He absolutely loves it. But one of the best things he does is whenever he wants to make an impact or your birthday, he will take a video on his cell phone and either text it to you or post it to your Facebook wall or something like that. That is, nobody else is doing it. It's an amazing impact. And he did that off of one of our shows. And it's one of the most meaningful messages that I've received because we were talking about him in a good way. And it's an easy way to stand out. It doesn't require anything advanced. You know how to hit record because everybody takes selfies. So that is a great point, Matt. So we talked about.
So one of the other things that Sean Carpenter does that people don't do is he sends personal notes.
Yep.
And I thought I had one on my desk from him, but I don't, but I did. And but just to go follow in that same vein, it's just that those personal touches. And anyway, Sean's a great guy. You went right past my beer comment, but I love the guy. I've known him a long time.
He is. And if you know him on Facebook, he posts about beer like all the time. I think his last post was about dive bars a couple of days ago. So great strategy for starting off with tech. Now we're going to go into specific types of tech now, starting with the office. So for running the business, the day-to-day, what are some of the most impactful pieces of technology that you're using that impact agents every single day, make their lives easier?
So are you talking about at the brokerage level, or are you talking about the agent level, or what are you
I think we could do a combination. So let's talk like what kind of tech a brokerage should be putting in place in today's environment and how that impacts the agent. So even if it's whether it's a broker listening in or if it's an agent, that agent can have an understanding of what the broker is doing and why it's there. And then we could talk about how what can directly impact an agent in their operations. Sure.
Well, one of the things that we've learned from building a brokerage in the last year, and you probably know all this too, Chris, is that it's become, just like all the other tech, it's become a lot easier in the last 5 years to run a brokerage and get a lot of the stuff automated and have the tech to do that. Not to say running a brokerage is easy, because we know it's not. And I would say that increasingly, opening a brokerage is a mistake unless you really intend to scale. As you know, margins push down, all these things happen. I think you have to scale it, and the tech allows you to be in a place where you can scale it. But it's a big decision point for people when they become successful in the business. Like, do I just want to become my own broker? And I don't think it should ever be a decision to, I want to save money. It's a decision to, I want to scale. I want to be a broker of hundreds, and which is what we're doing. And I don't know if you agree with that sentiment, but so there's all kinds of tools out there, and we looked at a bunch of them, from Broker Mint to, we use a tool called Broker Sumo. There's Total Brokerage. There's all these great pieces now that a Broker Mint, all these things that you can pick from that will help you build those systems in place. And I don't know that it affects the agent and except, well, I'll say it this way. If you're working in a brokerage that doesn't have that stuff, you're affected because you're experiencing a bad, inefficient process, right? It's hard to get paid. It's hard to upload documents. It's, and lots of people, especially working for small brokerages, I think don't realize, oh, this can be run a different way, until they experience it. Now if you're used to working in a big brokerage, and they probably have all that stuff in place, but
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And I think that the impact makes a huge deal, because now we're on Brokerment. We've been with Brokerment since they basically launched. I know Andrew and Yuri, and watching it develop, every time a new feature comes out, it's like, oh, this makes life so much easier. And the agents can track and know exactly what their production is, and I don't have to do anything. So there's a lot there. Now, on the agent side of things, though, for an agent that's within the brokerage, they're running their business, like, what can they use to keep track of where they are, what their operations are, what their overhead is? Like, what do you recommend there?
Well, for most agents, you can just keep it so simple, right? I mean, yes, you should have a budget, but that can be as a matter of the really simple spreadsheet. And in terms of budgeting and expenses, I always go back to The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller, which is the absolute gospel of how to run a real estate business, in my opinion. Was then, I'm not at, I'm obviously not at KW now, but I was for years. But he talks about red light, green light. So, if you have cash to spend in your business, then, you start making investments in tools and things that cost money, and you keep track of what those expenses are, and you hold those dollars accountable to. But all of that can be done in a really simple spreadsheet. In terms of managing lead flow, everybody needs a good CRM. At our brokerage, we provide a lot of tools. That's, I don't want this to be a commercial for BKG, but we built a lot of tech out for our agents and said, this is part of our value equation. So we great CRM and lots of other tools for email and, text and all that stuff. The CRM that we're basing everything on is called Follow Up Boss.
We're on the same platform.
Oh, are you? Cool.
Yeah, we have Follow Up Boss. I think that when it comes to a CRM, though, there's a lot of personal preferences, and the number one piece of advice that I think I can give anybody is the best CRM is the one that you use.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter how it ties into other tech or lead platforms or Flow or whatever. It matters that you use it, that you contact people, and that you do follow up. And I got to agree that the CRM is probably the number one piece of software that an agent can put in their business to help improve and track everything that's going on. Because if you've got a database of 100, 500, 5,000 people, there's absolutely no way that you can efficiently communicate to all of them in a consistent basis. Like, you could easily go and do like your MailChimp campaign once a month or once a year if you forget. But there's no way to do it consistently without having that system in place for everybody. So absolutely on the CRM, and there's some great ones out there, from Follow Up Boss to Sierra Interactive, RealVolve, which is merging with Firepoint, LionDesk. All of these have great tie-ins to real estate specific. But then you can also go and like Zoho, which is an email provider. They have a basic CRM that's included with email, and that's free. You could just use that to keep track of name, address, birth dates, and add tasks. It doesn't integrate with anything, but if all you need to do is follow up with people, it gives you the ability to do so. So awesome on tech for the office and running a business. Let's talk marketing. Let's shift it a little bit. So marketing for the agent, both with marketing being like the research side of things, and then advertising being, direct communication with people. Well, in both of those, what kind of tools are out there for agents right now? What makes life easy? We all know the camera. So let's talk about that.
Back to the order of things, like, to me, it's always a conversation about, are you winning step 1, step 2, step 3 before you go to step 20? And, so once you have your top 100 people, or maybe it's 500 people, whatever it is, but at least you have your top 100 at a minimum. now what are step 1, 2, and 3? And for me, it starts on Facebook. Well, no, it starts with personal notes, which is very old school, not tech. But the first piece of tech is your Facebook. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to structure ads and run those ads only at those 100 people. And most people never think about Facebook that way, or Facebook ads that way, but that's an incredibly inexpensive ad to run because it's only targeting 100 people. But now all those 100 people are going to see you whenever they log into Facebook, and they're going to go, oh my God, Matt's everywhere. And yet it didn't cost very much because I'm only targeting 100 people. And so to me, it's really simple stuff like that. Yeah, there's a couple bucks of cost in it, and there's some learning curve if you don't know how to do that. But so I say, start right there. Then you already mentioned MailChimp or whatever you're going to use as email. But if we've already taken these steps, we've got personal notes going out to everybody. We know we're using our phone, right? So we're texting them and whatever. But we've got personal notes going out. We've got a Facebook ad running, targeting that top 100, and then we're going to send them, an email at least once or twice a month that says something. And so you got most agents have a long way to go down the road before they have to even get any more complicated than that, and like I said, you talk to 98 people, if they have to be honest, they can't lie, they're on a lie detector, they don't have that stuff in place.
And I like the emails, right? If you're doing a campaign, many people don't know this, but if you log into the National Association of Realtors website, they have email campaigns that are fully compliant that you can just copy and paste the entire email and build out your own email campaign and set it up to go out recurring. So when somebody sets up, you put in an email, they get this campaign for the next year, and you don't have to do anything else. It'll take a couple of hours, maybe an hour for the learning curve. And then after that, it's like 15 minutes to set up an email. So that's definitely there.
If people really believed, so I just said my opinion that email is like the second thing on my list of this is really important, consistent monthly email or bi-monthly or whatever. So if people really believe that's okay, that's really important. Okay, well, schedule the time on your calendar to do that. And yes, you can grab whatever, or you can send out something that's automated that you didn't write. But I mean, what if you actually wrote it? What if you actually, took 2 minutes to tell your 100 people what's going on with the market right now? We're doing that in the form of podcast right now with our lenders. So we do 2 different calls a month with 2 different lenders. And here's what's going on. Here's the market condition. Here's average days on market, blah, 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 blah. And then boom, sent. And, so do that, do something that actually engages the clients that you want to work with. And hopefully says, wow, Chris is smart. Chris just shared me some useful information and, check that box, So anyway.
Yeah. And whatever you do, you have to do it with consistency. If it's Facebook posting, if it's email, if it's, blogging, there's all sorts of avenues that are out there that you can use to communicate your message with your customer base. The important thing is consistency here, because if your customer base sees an email in January and then doesn't see one until June, and then maybe sees one in July, August, but not another one until Thanksgiving, you're portraying how you act in business. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you don't do your email consistently, why would your consumer think that you're consistent enough to handle their business in real estate?
Yeah. Well, and then there's a flip side to that coin. If your client gets an email from you every month or every week, and the subject line is stupid and it's always exactly the same and it doesn't say anything meaningful, and they just delete it before they even look at it, right? So that's also bad.
Whatever you do better be worth doing. Mark Davison, who is one of the founders over at 1000 Watt. If you're not familiar with 1000 Watt, they are an ad agency. They're a creative agency that is specific to the real estate industry. For their blog is super well known in the industry, and for every blog post that they actually publish, 5 don't make the cut. they're very specific and methodical about what they put out. So you think through what you're putting out there in any format before you get it out there, and then make sure it's consistent. One tool I want to talk about is if you don't know where to start there, you're not creative or you're not a writer, there are tools out there like, I just lost it.
Happy Grasshopper.
Yeah, you've got Grasshopper. There's Keeping Current Matters, which is a $20 a month subscription that comes out, and their content is actually very good. And if you do nothing else than subscribe to that, you can create little videos to send to people based off of the content that they're publishing. Because it's a great way to do that. So that one is Keeping Current Matters.
You've also got data tools. We use a couple, but my favorite is called Altos Research. Mm-hmm. And so they just give you market specific data every month or every week or however often you want to do it, that you can post and go, here's this awesome data. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to do anything to get it. You've got RPR, which is free to all Realtor members, great data reports there, all that. I mean, it's just so easy. It wasn't that way 5 years ago. Now it wasn't. It's simple.
And now you've also got Market Stats, which is within FMLS. You log into FMLS, you go to statistics, and then it's right there. You can pull any graph up until the last finished month, and it's all data from showing time. So you can even see now there are 16.7 showings on average before a house goes pending, which is up 25%. As the volume's down 25%, you can watch all that and send it out easily.
16 showings in 3 hours, right?
For some homes. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So great ideas on marketing, on getting your message out there. I guess, whatever software it is that you choose to use, make sure you do it consistently. And so let's talk direct sales. What tools can agents use today that are going to bring them customers tomorrow? And let's not talk about just based off of price. Let's just talk about the tech that's out there that can lead to new clients tomorrow.
Well, in my opinion, it's become incredibly easy to either run your own ads or pay somebody to run ads for you on Facebook or Google PPC. And, right now, those are after you get past fear, after you've done all that work, because if you haven't done that work, you shouldn't move on to step 2, because these are going to be more expensive ads and more.
This is step 20.
Right. Yeah. Step 20. But you've got us to step 20. Step 20 to me is first thing is Facebook ads and Google PPC. But you have to have the systems in place to handle that lead flow and nurture those leads over time. Yes. So if you haven't done step 1 through 19, go back to step 1, come up. Right. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing lead costs, as low as a couple bucks per lead, and, on up from there, depending on where the lead source was and what the keywords were and all that. But, it's absolutely the big game in real estate now is about creating a high volume of leads, but also having the system and discipline in place to nurture those leads over a long time, because, increasingly those leads are very top of funnel, which means I'm a long, long, long way from buying a house. I clicked on a picture, one of the tools that we use is called Ylopo, which generates tons of Facebook.
Stealing our ideas.
I think we're just on the sync on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I guess so.
But anyway, so, they're generating tons and tons and tons of leads, but they're way top of funnel, right? It's just some dude, I'm on Facebook, I saw a picture of a house, I clicked on it. Well, great. That doesn't mean I'm buying a house tomorrow. It means maybe I'm buying a house 2 years from now,
Exactly. And you've got to have that nurture system in place.
Yeah.
So that's, you mentioned Ylopo. I love where things are going with tech, because there's a lot of different pieces of tech into a software like that, where you have the CRM aspect, which we covered. You've got the Facebook ads, and now they're just launching Google pay-per-click. So you can do Google ads and Facebook. All of the leads go directly into the CRM, but then they also use retargeting. So explain how retargeting works. Would you, Matt?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's whatever you were searching for on Google 5 minutes ago, like Chris said, maybe Chris needs a new lawnmower, so he's searching for lawnmowers. And now lawnmower ads are going to chase Chris all over the internet and all over Facebook, and everywhere he goes, he's going to see ads for lawnmowers. It's because of retargeting. And so, now that's being done in real estate. And honestly, I mean, you could argue. So now we're at step 21 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it might be the most powerful thing happening in all marketing right now, is that ability, because we're all so freaking short attention span and whatever. So what happens is Chris looked at some lawnmowers, but then he got busy and he went off and he started doing 50 other things. And 2 weeks from now, he's going to buy a lawnmower, and he's probably going to buy it from the ad that retargeted him for the mower that he liked. And the guys that weren't retargeting him well probably won't get that business, because the guys retargeting Chris spent the last 2 weeks following up with him. And so if somebody's searching for houses and now all of a sudden they start seeing Chris's face for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, that's the gold, right?
Absolutely. And so with the retargeting within real estate, one of the ways that it works is the ad drives people to the website, and the website is tracking what kind of properties these people are looking at, where they're looking, and then it then retargets with similar types of properties based off of what they looked at on your website. So their search never ends. They may look at a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $300,000 and then look at a few other properties similar. So the next 2 or 3 days, they're going to start seeing ads from, the agent that's using this software saying, hey, we noticed that when you were on the website, you were taking a look at this. I found this house for you. Why don't you take a look at this and see if this is what you're looking for? And it's just unbelievable how that follow-up stays there. The average consumer doesn't transact until, like, on average, I think like 10 or 12 contacts. Mm-hmm. The average agent stops contacting somebody after twice. So the follow-up becomes automated. The follow-up with retargeting, the follow-up with, there's an artificial intelligence aspect behind some of this software that will actually converse and send text messages to registrants, and try and, like what you do with call action, it tries to bring that conversation back to life over and over again, so that you're top of mind and that you're always continuing the dialogue, whether you're in front of the computer or not. So some of the tech there is just mind-boggling. And Ylopo's not the only one to do it. There's KV Core, a few others. They're not all the same, but they've got a lot of similar aspects to them.
Yeah, you got Sync and Firepoint, and I mean, there's a whole bunch of cool tech out there. I think where it all falls down, and this is, I mean, we continue to fight this battle every day. Is that you can't just let the tech do it, right? It's still I hope you, as a realtor, whoever's listening to this, I hope you're better on the phone at engaging a human than the tech can possibly ever be, right? If I'm talking to a client on the phone, I promise you I've got a better chance of getting somewhere with that person than just waiting for the computer to work. And so, we already explained that this is a really high in the funnel lead. This is just a person who just said, yeah, I'm interested in houses in threes. That's all I said, right? So, well, I'll tell you what, you better get on the phone with that person and build a relationship and say, hey, I know you were just clicking on this ad, and, you might not be ready right now, but, we can dial this in so that you receive all the listings in that price range, and I just want to make sure I'm sending you the right stuff. Was it the 300s that you were interested in? Was it this school district? But having that human conversation and then staying in touch with that person over a year or two, and then scaling that to hundreds and then thousands of people, that's how you build this monster business. And I think, it's almost easier for a brand new agent to come in the business now and learn that methodology than to take an agent from 5 years ago who was used to a realtor.com lead, and they're used to that crack pipe of, like, I'm going to sell this person a house today, and teaching, relearning the new way, if you will, right? I mean, tell me if you sync with what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a pretty heavy tech background. Like, before real estate, I had my CCNA. I was certified Cisco network administrator. But when I'm learning this stuff now, it's just much more complex than it ever was. I think the number one thing is that as tech develops and as tech changes, the underlying work, right? The principles don't change. The principles of the industry are: you communicate about real estate, you get people into conversations, you solve their problems. Everything that tech is doing right now is just changing the way that we communicate. You still need to communicate, you still need to do the work. The tech allows you to do that at scale sometimes, but you still got to roll up your sleeves and get down into it and call people ultimately. You can get any kind of lead source, whether it's Zillow, which in our market is now Flex. So if you're just now a new agent, you can't just go and buy leads with Zillow now when a zip code opens up. Or you put in a place ads with Facebook, Google Play, Google pay-per-click, Realtor.com still has the pay model. Any of this all comes down to, you still got to do the work. You still have to convert the lead to a client, which kind of gets into tech that makes our job in the sales process easy. Because I want to talk about how we can leverage our time when it comes to listings or buyers. What tools are out there right now that when we're directly working with a client can make our lives so much easier?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no magic bullet. I think a lot of times when you start talking about process, I think people don't always apply the tools that they already have to the process. So what if you took the time to record videos and automate an email sequence so that every buyer that you have under contract receives every piece of information and communication that they're going to need from you in an automated way over time. Now, and you still going to layer your own personal touches on top of that, right? But
yeah.
Right before this call, I had a very quick call with a listing client. I don't have too many of my own listings anymore, but I do with this client. And his house went under contract in 5 or 6 days. And I think the total run, I think we're at about 11 days now or something like that. And he just voluntarily said, "Hey, Matt, I just want you to know, like, it's incredible that you or your team have talked to me and emailed me every single day since we engaged." And like that was gratifying. And I didn't bother to tell him that, oh man, like half of that was automated, because that doesn't matter, right? What he wants to know is he was communicated well with every day for 11 days, and he will be until we close, and then after that. And so, I think it's taking the time to make those simple automations.
Yeah, and that's, making the automations is huge. If you can't do that yourself, or you need to hire somebody to do that, there are easy platforms like Fiverr or Upwork where you can actually hire somebody for relatively inexpensive, because they're overseas, it's outsourced, and have them build it for you. A few $100s can go really far with some of these process improvements when and it doesn't take any of your time other than just shoot over some temporary credentials. When they're done, you change your password again.
I'd say Fiverr might be the best tech tip ever for people that don't use it. And again, it's sort of this mindset of like, here's an X, whatever thing is I want to do, and having that mindset of like, I wonder if I could find somebody on Fiverr to do that, whatever it is, whether it's, transcribe a video or like, 1,000 other things.
That was one thing that we were doing for forever on Rethink Real Estate, is every podcast was getting a full 45-minute transcription. And I think the total cost to that was like $20 an episode, $15 an episode. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you even say no to that?
There's another tool I use a good bit called Rev.com. I don't know if you're using that.
Yeah.
The app is just called Rev, right? But I think their transcriptions are $1 a minute. So if you record something, or whether it's a call or just your own voice or whatever, but they'll send it back to you for $1 a minute. That's pretty amazing. But it's also great. I really just use it to like say things to myself so I don't forget them, right? And and then you can share those things out, and whatever, you probably use it the same way.
Yeah, it's great, especially if you do a video, right? If you want to do a video, 80% of videos are watched without sound. You take Rev, you get your transcription done, and boom, there you go. Now you've got your closed captions on top of your video. It's huge. Yeah. So when it comes to agents in the field, earlier you mentioned RPR. There are some other tools and tips that we can talk about with agents when it comes to specific things like marketing property, because we've talked a lot about the client experience. So we're dealing with COVID, and a lot of people are still limiting the number of people into their houses. How can we give a great experience virtually to some of our clients nowadays? I'm setting you up because I know you're friends with Peter. And
Yeah, I knew where that was going, man.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Box Brownie, but also I think, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Haas Pratt, who's a coach who, like 7 years ago, was talking to me about doing virtual listing appointments, basically Zoom. And when he was talking about it, and he talked about it on stage at my conferences, and and I was like, man, I just don't think people are going to go for that. Like he was saying, like, you know what, why can't I stay in my office and just do all my listing appointments from the office and then only go see the clients that actually said yes? And I thought, wow, like that's ballsy. Well, guess what? Now you can do that. But even now, agents are not thinking that they're not doing that. No. So what if, to use using the tech is all about getting more done with less time, less effort, making your life better. So what if you changed your mindset and said, all right, I'm only going to do listing appointments on Zoom. I'm going to try to set up 2 a day or whatever, but I'm never going to have to leave my house. I'm not going to use any gas. I'm not going to have any risk. The client is going to be great because they're like, I don't, want people in my house, whatever. What if you could shift your whole business to do that? And for the first time ever, I think everybody in the world would get it and go, okay, yeah. I suppose some people might object, but you can do a lot of listing appointments without ever leaving your house. So I wanted to make sure I covered that point, because when you started talking down this vein, that's what was in my head. Mm-hmm. But then when you get to the showings and stuff, right, we got our buddies down under at Box Brownie, and there are other ways to do it too. We talk about Matterport. 5 years ago, when Matterport entered the market, their 3D tour was incredible, is incredible.
It is.
Yet expensive. And Chris, and I know that now you could do that and more at very low cost if you just knew, yeah, dude, if you have an iPhone 11 and you've got Box Brownie, oh my God, like you got the world, yeah. Right? So you talk about it,
It's huge. So one, at the GAR conference, we talked about the Leica or the Ryko Theta V, the Theta 5 camera. They've got a new one out, which is a 3D camera that you can do a very, very nice 3D tour, and it's compatible with Zillow, so you can actually get better rankings on Zillow. But with COVID, you've now got 2 3D tools on your phone that are free. Matterport, their app and software, you can download here and go through a property, and it'll generate a Matterport tour for you with your cell phone. It requires a lot more work than doing it with the Matterport camera, and the quality is not quite there, but it's still an awesome way for somebody to go out and tour the property. Same thing with Zillow. They have their 3D Home app. And if you use your phone with that, you upload it directly from your account, and it's going to show that 3D tour within your Zillow listing. It's an absolutely unbelievable way that you can showcase homes. You reduce tire kickers, because for COVID, I had a listing and I said, here's the Matterport. You go through, and we're not going to grant access to your showing until you have confirmed as the agent that your clients have viewed the 3D tour.
Yeah, there you go, man. That's a great idea. And, yeah. And why aren't we all doing our own walkthrough tour of every listing when it goes up, to show everybody, and also anybody who might want to list with you in the future, like, hey, look, I'm going to walk through every single listing I've got. And you would think that would have, by now, 3 months into this madness, or 4 months, that would be 100%, but it's not. So like we've been saying, the theme of this call, right, is there's so many more things that you could do just by changing your mindset with the simple tools you already have.
Absolutely. You don't have to change your life. There's just, be creative and think about ways that you can make things easier for people. Nathan, who's a co-host on the podcast with me, also out of Ohio, he does a structured open house. He doesn't allow for agents to go in and show. And what they do is they go out with 2 agents, do the open house. One runs a queue. They have markers 6 feet apart outside of the house. They allow 2 adults and 1 agent in the property at any given time, 15-minute rotations. And then 1 agent's inside the house giving a tour. The other agent is managing the queue, making sure that nobody goes in. The house gets cleaned once instead of after the homeowner having to worry after every single showing. So it is actually possible to do a physical open house and have that be safer and a better option for your sellers than just scheduling through showing time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Get creative with this stuff. And I think that's kind of the biggest theme about what we're dealing with our market nowadays. We don't have any questions right now, but I want to encourage everybody, because I got one more question for Matt. Encourage you to ask any questions that you have about any piece of tech, and we will do our best to answer it. Just pull up the little Q&A bubble at the bottom of the Zoom call and throw it up there, and we will do our best to get those answered here in just a couple of minutes. So Matt, this has all been fantastic information. I want to know, what is one piece of tech that has been absolutely life-changing for you or your agents? Like, if there's one thing you can't live without anymore, what is that?
Other than the phone, I'd say it's BombBomb, and BombBomb just leveled up so much. I mean, I already thought that, but now the new release of their product is unbelievable. I mean, it literally, you can drop videos anywhere. You could drop them in Facebook Messenger, LinkedIn Messenger, every single app in the world. And you're probably using the Google Chrome extension in Gmail. I mean, I literally use it constantly, and you can communicate so much more effectively by video. And that, in the last couple of years, for me, has just become like absolute, like, I almost don't, that's the way that I communicate, unless I'm just writing the word yes. Like, if I'm
yes, or don't do that.
Yeah, if I'm trying to convey anything of any detail, it's going to be a video in text or a video in email or something like that.
Awesome. Well, we got a question. I need a better website. I hate to admit it, I have the one that does not have an IDX. For an agent that wants an IDX, they want the search feature. What are some providers out there that they can look into to have that built for them?
Sure. So, the first question I would ask that person is, what's your volume and what are your goals for volume? So if you're doing 10 transactions, that's, the answer is different than if you're doing 100. And if you want to do 100 or 200, then you're going to spend more money and get a bigger product. So Chris and I are both using Ylopo, for example, which costs thousands of dollars a month to run. But you don't need to do that unless you're either a broker or you're running a big team, or you got some serious volume. It depends on your price point. But at the base level, if you're a brand new agent, I mean, there's stuff in Georgia MLS, there's stuff in FMLS, and probably from your broker that can, at this point.
Matt, we just got some clarification. About 25 years in the business, solo, and now has 7 agents, not super productive. This person is a broker.
Oh yeah. So then Firepoint, Ylopo, Tribus Group. You may have to go back to listen to this if you're not writing them all down fast enough. But I mean, if you're at that level, then you're talking about some big tools. You've got Real Estate Webmasters.
They would probably be the pinnacle.
Give me a couple.
REW.
Which one is?
Yeah. Real Savvy is another one. They're out of Arizona. I mean, there's tons of them. I think the important thing is, when you have an IDX on your website, you got to drive traffic there. An IDX for selectrealty.com, right? That's Select Realty. We have our own custom website. We built that ourselves. We own everything. There's no third party that runs it. And we have a IDX that we subscribe to. That IDX is only as effective as how many people we're pushing to that website and asking them to register on that IDX. Because, Zillow, last I heard, was 188 million unique visitors every month. And then number 2 was Realtor.com with like 30 million. It's a ridiculous thing. Everybody's going to Zillow. So you have to be able to send people to your website, and your website has to be something where they're constantly being brought back. That's where an IDX is going to be effective today.
And that's
just
the
having
argument.
it there.
That's the argument against it. I mean, a lot of people will argue now that agents and even brokers don't need IDX because, well, I'm just going to compete with Zillow, blah, blah. And, I mean, that's a long conversation. That's a whole nother call, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and so speaking of that, Chris, I got about 3 more minutes. If there's another question or two, let's grab it.
Absolutely. So we've got one right here. So Matt, the answer is bomb, BOMB. One last question. I can't run Facebook ads on my business page. Should I start over with a new page? Somehow my settings are jacked up.
You need a vendor, you need a partner, and there's a million people out there. It's not that expensive. If honestly, I mean, I pay other people to run all our ads, and I come from that school of thought. I am not a DIY guy. I'm a who can do this for me better and faster so I can sell another house or go do something lifestyle wise that's a better use of my time. Successful realtors should be making $1,000 an hour, and you can pay somebody to run ads for you for a heck of a lot less than that. So, man, there's a bunch of, if you start looking, man, there's a million guys out there that can run ads for you, or you can hire a whole agency and all that. And again, it goes back to what level are you at, and, how much business do you have and all that. Starting point for that stuff. I like to point people to my buddy Travis Tom at elevatedrem.com. Lots of free training there, but they're an agency. They'll run ads for you and all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us here at the Cobb Association today. This video was recorded live. We live streamed it on the Select Realty YouTube channel, and we'll be sending this over to Barry over at the Cobb board today, and it'll be put up on the Cobb Association of Realtors YouTube channel as well. Great information. Please come back and rewatch this because Matt is a wealth of information. And thank you so much for being with us today, Matt. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate the invitation. I hope it was helpful. And thanks to all of you who were tuned in.
Awesome. And thank you so much to the Cobb Association of Realtors for the opportunity to put on this webinar, part of our series that we've been doing while COVID has been in effect and nobody's in the building. So have a great day, everybody. We'll see you at the next event.
See you later.